Hello. The response of characters to their environment is hugely important in C.S. Lewis's stories. Today, I'm just going to look at the magician's nephew and that hideous strength. So in The Magician's Nephew, as I was saying last week, Diggory and Polly in the cabbie are transfixed with joy at the newly created Narnia, which Aslan has sung into being before them. But Uncle Andrew, with his impure heart, can only think of the commercial possibilities of burying bits of metal that will grow into trains and ships and selling the results back home. He's just observed the witch chucking a piece of metal at Aslan, which she's ripped off a lamppost back in London. And when it hit the ground, it grew into the lamppost, which is the one we know and love at Lantern Waste. Uncle Andrew observes this and thinks he'll do the same with all sorts of bits of metal and make a handsome profit. He observes the health benefits of the beautiful air in this new created world, and he thinks he'll open a spa. Basically, he's all set to exploit this new world. Later on, Diggory is sent to a magical garden away in the mountains beyond Narnia to bring back a fruit for Aslan, which under Aslan's instruction he plants beside the river, where it quickly grows into a marvellous magical tree. So the witch inadvertently plants a lamppost, but Diggory, working in harmony with Aslan, plants a glorious magical tree of protection in Narnia, whose branches seem to cast light rather than shadows, and its apples are like stars. Its fragrance is astonishing, and it will deter evil for many years to come. The point is that he is working in step with the Creator to bring good for the whole nation, the whole land. And to achieve this, he has to forego his natural desire to take the apple back home to help his own sick mother. And in the end, he gets to help his own mother too, but in step with Aslan. Now, moving on to that hideous strength, the last in Lewis's cosmic trilogy, and the character Mark. The thing we're told about Mark when we first meet him is that he isn't noticing the beauty of the morning as he walks to college. That's a black mark against him from the beginning. It's an indicator of his spiritual condition. However, in chapter 4, there is a glimmer of hope for Mark. He's begun working with the organisation called NICE, the National Institute for Coordinated Experiments, which is really a front for some very sinister and evil goings-on. And on a trip to write a report on the picturesque and ancient village of Cure Hardy, which the NICE is about to have destroyed, there is hope. It says, Mark was not, as a rule, very sensitive to beauty, but Jane and his love for Jane had already awakened him a little in this respect. Now, Jane's his wife, and their marriage is under threat, really. They appear to be growing apart somewhat. But nevertheless, she has awakened the beginnings of a sensitivity to beauty in him. And we're told how lovely he finds his surroundings, the fields, the clouds, the woods, and even the noise of the rooks that seem to be calling, "Wake, wake!" His companion from NICE calls it a bloody awful noise and is interested only in the survey that they have to do. He is not a good character at all. But for Mark, there is hope that he can one day achieve the spiritual awakening to which he's clearly being called in this scene. So there's a little theme of awakening beginning. And we see aspects of different characters' relationship with the natural world in the novel, not just Mark. But Mark's all I have time for today. He and Jane go on a separate journey in the novel before they're fit for each other, especially him fit for her. Marriage and marital love are an important theme in the book. Much later on, a memory of those rooks cawing at Cure Hardy is among the list of solid and wholesome things which draw Mark back to a sense of what he calls normal after he's been sucked into the evil of the NICE. I noticed that Jane too heard the cawing of rooks while she waited to be seen at the manor for the first time, the manor at St Anne's being the focus of good in the story. So rooks are an emblem of goodness and a sign that their marriage might yet be redeemed. They're much more than just a bloody awful noise, as Cossa said. They're calling Mark to wake from his moral and spiritual sleep. When eventually Mark begins to renew his appreciation of his wife Jane, he thinks of her in terms of garden and landscape. She seemed to him, as he now thought of her, to have in herself deep wells and knee-deep meadows of happiness, rivers of freshness, enchanted gardens of leisure, which he could not enter. She's well ahead of him on the journey. But he could have spoiled. He could have wrecked it for her. The images which are used to convey Mark's own inner life are very different. It's described in terms of dreariness and concentrated insipidity, a flavourless, colourless spiritual existence. All this life of dust and broken bottles, the heap of old tin cans, the dry and choking places, which are striking images of squalor and neglect. And of course, a life of dust is not life at all, because dust speaks of death, dust to dust, dust that chokes. You see, Mark himself in the end feels disgust, heartbreak, self-pity at it all. Mostly it's his own fault. But into this dreariness, he realises Jane had once brought joy. Myrtle long ago, Pearson at school, Denniston while they were undergraduates, and lastly Jane had been the four biggest invasions of his life by something from beyond the dry and choking places. Something from beyond the dry and choking places. When I read that, it set me thinking, who over the years has brought joy into my own life? Who are the people who have been sent my way, companions, who brought to me something from beyond the dry and choking places?